What's going on, everybody? GemMint here, back again with another Omnibus haul. We've got some manga, we've got some DC, some absolutes, some Omnibus, including an early look at the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6. But before we jump into it, man, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. Let's check out this beautiful copy of Vagabond. Man, this is like one of the nicest books that I've ever seen. This Vagabond Deluxe Edition has like this canvas hardcover, and look at this dust jacket. What? They just put me onto something I've never even seen before, man. This is classy as hell. So the definitive edition, volume 1, this is the same material that's collected in the softcover 3-in-1 omnibus. I actually just checked it out so I can get an idea of what went down in this story. My retention on this one wasn't the best, but I remember really liking it. So $55 is the cover price on here. So it's got the canvas kind of on the front here, and then it's different. It's kind of like more, I don't even know how to describe it. It's a different type of canvas is what it feels like. All right, opening up to that burgundy interior. Beautiful. All right, we got a nice colored portrait in the front here. Some more. Here we go, Vagabond, Takiko and Noi. So here's a table of contents collecting the first 3 volumes. That's 31 chapters. And then the same pages that are in color from that soft cover are in color here as well. All right, so here we go. I love the art here. It really did give me like the same vibe as Berserk as far as the detail that's put in here. Here's a nice gory fight scene. But it's the story of these 2 friends that they want to be warriors. They leave their hometown. The main character has something that hasn't been revealed yet in these 3 volumes, that there's some kind of beast-like nature about him. But it's a pretty grounded story otherwise. It's not as kind of out there as Berserk is. If I would continue to collect these, which I would, I think these look incredible, I would have to reread this. Even watching the video, I'm like, nah, I'm not really retaining what went down on this story, but I did like it. I like the fight scenes. The art is great. The character interactions, the supporting cast. I dug Vagabond. All right, guys, next up, this omnibus is my entire childhood. We have the DC vs. Marvel Amalgam Age Omnibus. When I was a kid, I only had a few single issues. I had some Spider-Man, I had some Superman, I had some Spawn, but I had some Amalgam one-shots. I had Lobo the Duck. I had all of those post DC vs. Marvel comics, and it's so crazy to see them all collected in here right now. So let's take a look at the Amalgam Omnibus. All right, so I went with the regular cover because that's what I have for the DC vs. Marvel Omnibus. So here they go together. They have similar spines with the whole cast of characters. So this was DC vs. Marvel, and the Amalgam was the combination of those universes. So we got Darkclaw, we got Spider-Boy, the original Spider-Boy, and a whole bunch of other characters, Lobo the Duck. So here's the front. Darkclaw, probably the coolest character to come out of this whole Amalgam universe. And here's the back wraparound cover here for the dust jacket. I don't even see the price on this one. I'm pretty sure this was $150, but it collects DC versus Marvel 1 through 4. Then you have All Access 1 through 4, Unlimited Access 1 through 4, and Access is the new character that they created for this series that he can go between both universes. Then we have Amazon 1, Assassins 1, Bat Thing 1, Bruce Wayne Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 1. You know what? We'll actually take a look at all those individual issues. I don't need to go over the whole thing right now, but that's the outside of the dust jacket. Here are the interiors, the whole voting process that they put into place for the 4-issue series on which heroes will win. Here's a little preview of fake omnibuses. Yeah, that's right, man. The letters pages and the fake omnibus solicitation. Man, we ain't getting no Fantastic Legion omnibus. Beautiful wraparound cover here. And I love the fact that they went with like Ben Reilly Spider-Man, because they went with the characters as they were in this era. Now, this is a DC vs. Marvel omnibus, but it's produced by DC. So it's got a very tight cover and back hardcover. You have the same interiors from the DC vs. Marvel omnibus. Here's a look at all those beautiful covers. Here goes the credits. Star-studded cast. I mean, Ron Mars, Carl Cassell, Peter David, John Byrne, Kurt Busiek, Chuck Dixon, Keith Given, Mark Waid. Just a ton of great writers on here and artists. Here's the table of contents. Here's an intro, part 1. Look at Darkclaw. So they did Darkclaw in the Batman the Animated Series style. So crazy. This was the first time I read the Versus stuff too. When I was a kid, I just had the one-shots that came out after this whole battle. So there was some that was going on in between. So here's Spider-Man, All of a sudden, Joker gets transported to him. But you can see the artwork, man. This 90s style. Here's Decision 96. Here are the two, kind of like the embodiment of each universe. Their rift and their combination leads to the battle. The universes merging with each other, and then to the Amalgam universe where the characters are merged. Namor versus Aquaman. The scorecard. So you get everything from those original comics. They came with biographies on the Marvel and DC characters. After issue 3 is when the merge happens, when the Amalgam universe is born, and we get all those mix-ups. So look, Elektra versus Catwoman, the purple suit Catwoman. They plucked all of like my favorite versions of these characters. Storm versus Wonder Woman. So those two cosmic entities merge together, they become one, and that's when we get the Amalgam universe. You get Super Soldier, which is Superman and Captain America. Spider-Boy is Spider-Man and Superboy. Darkclaw, obviously, Batman and Wolverine. Doctor Strange Fate. Dr. Doomsday. So then we get the one-shots, starting with Super Soldier, which is just really a very generic kind of superhero origin story. The mail call, these are all fake letters talking about events that happened in comic books that never existed. So it's pretty funny. I read a couple of them, and like the editors writing back, Bruce Wayne, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So honestly, I really didn't enjoy the one-shots in between Marvel vs. DC 3 and 4. It was after, those were all my favorites, and those are the ones that I had as a kid. But I just read these, X-Patrol. But hold on, wait a minute. This was this was a treat. There are 2 Darkclaw ones. This one's Larry Hama, Jim Balent, and Ray McCarthy. This one is amazing. But the one that they do after this is in the Batman, the animated series style. But Darkclaw, man, that's a dope character. This would be a great statue as well. All right, so after Darkclaw, you get Speed Demon, which is like a Ghost Rider and Flash character. Assassins #1. I forget, these were like Elektra mixed with, I don't even remember that one. Amazon, it's like Wonder Woman mixed with Storm. Here's Doctor Strange Fate, so Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate. I really only like the Darkclaw one. Strange Fate letters, yeah, so like they reference events and issues that don't exist. It's pretty funny. All right, then it goes to issue 4, the end of the whole big battle of 2 universes. The Amalgam universe gets split apart, and then the characters are back. Darkseid and Thanos in the same comic. It was fun though, man. So basically they get those 2 entities to agree to go their separate ways, and then it jumps into the access stuff. So here's the character that can travel in between universes. This is where you get Superman versus Venom. Issue 2. They were really trying to push Jubilee, man. They had her in the animated series. They had her versus Robin, and they actually fall in love with each other. Then we have another Super Soldier, Man of War issue 1. This one I don't think I had though, but I'm pretty sure I had every single mashup after the Amalgam universe stuff. So let's get to that. Yeah, here's X-Patrol. This one I had for sure. Everything was X and Mutant at that time with X-Men and X-Force, and it was all the rage. But here, this is probably the standout of this. Darkclaw Adventures issue #1. Logan as Bruce Wayne. The letters to Darkclaw Adventures in the back. Bat Thing #1, I had that for sure. It's like Man Thing and Man Bat combined. JLX Unleashed. The Magnetic Men featuring Magneto. Yep, I remember this. I didn't know who any of these characters were at the time. But now I've read a lot of stuff with Metal Men, so I see what they were doing. All right, so then we have Spider-Boy Team Up. So they have a new Spider-Man, and with the first appearances and everything, they have to kind of credit it a little bit different. Like, this is the first time we've had a Spider-Boy character, but he was a mashup of Spider-Man and Superboy, the challengers of the Fantastic. I remember having this, and I guess I just kind of wrote it off as a what if when I was a kid. All right, but then you have that. Then you have this kind of Iron Man, Green Lantern mashup. The Iron Lantern. First of all, Dr. Doomsday. Thorion of the new Asgods. So a little Orion and Thor mashup. This is probably the other big one that I remember as a kid. Lobo the Duck. So Lobo with Howard the Duck. They give you the sketch of the original cover. This one was a good one too, man. It was kind of similar in tone to like the Batman Adventures, I would say, but kind of cartoonish. And then it's the follow-up to the Access miniseries with Unlimited Access. So those 4 issues, I believe that's what rounds this omnibus out. Oh, I almost forgot. I was trying to put the trading card set together as a kid. I never had the full set. I would try to put together that 9-card insert set, But they have the entire Amalgam Age trading card set printed in the back of this thing. I mean, if this omnibus couldn't have gotten better already, the fronts and the backs. Hold on, I got to see. Yeah, here it is, because I believe it was like a Boris Vallejo or Julie Bell painting. I mean, probably them working together on it. Yep, they had two. They had two of them. So I always remember that Cyclops, Nightwing, and then Logan at the bottom. Yeah, look, even the bonus cards, like lenticular cards. All right, what else does it have in here? This omnibus is stacked. I still got some promo posters. Again, with the Ben Reilly Spidey, Lobo versus Wolvie. Yeah, there were some great battles in the DC versus Wolverine. Oh, I just said, how could it get better? You got the whole trading cards, and then look, it's 90s with gatefold posters. What? So really, it's a 3-page poster right here. And on the back. Bro, that's crazy. I don't know if I have it in my heart to rip out a poster from an omnibus. I think you would just keep it in there, but then on this side it's a 2-page poster. And then Darklaw. What? Yeah, this is a keeper in my collection for sure. Both of them, the DC vs. Marvel and then the Amalgam Omnibus. Original sketches in the back. A ton of bonus material. Yep, this is dope, man. Scripts in the back as well. All right, guys, coming out this week, we have another Spider-Man omnibus. We have the Dark Web Omni. This is the Ben Reilly. This is the Madeline Pryor stuff. Let's dive into it. This is the standard cover. There is a direct market variant by Ryan Stegman. Spidey in the web, the dark web. Not that type of dark web. This takes place after the events of The Amazing Spider-Man Beyond, where Ben Reilly comes back. They take us 6 months into the future, and he is working for this company as the Amazing Spider-Man. Something happened to Peter. We don't really know what. Anyway, Ben Reilly ends up getting his memories messed with. He goes bad and becomes the villain named Chasm. So now you have this evil clone of Spider-Man running around who teams up with another evil clone of another Marvel superhero, Jean Grey, is Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen, and they team up for this story. So this one collects Dark Web #1, Amazing Spider-Man 14 through 18 from the 2022 volume, Venom 13 through 16, that's the Ron Lim, Al Ewing run. Then it has Dark Web X-Men 1 through 3, Dark Web Miss Marvel 1 and 2, Dark Web Finale 1, Mary Jane and Black Cat, the 5-issue miniseries, Gold Goblin 1 through 5, which is Norman Osborn as this hero. The Sin Eater took his sins and he ended up becoming a good guy. You get the Hallows Eve 5-issue event. That's the big team up. You have Hallows Eve, the big night, and material from Amazing Spider-Man Annual Issue 1 from 2023 and Free Comic Book Day 2022, the Spider-Man / Venom stuff. $100 cover price, so pretty good on this omnibus. Now remember, you can get these heavily discounted when they're in stock. Go to organicpricebooks.com. Not only are they discounted, but you can save an additional $2 by using the code GemMint every time. You can also pre-order books from there as well, so you don't miss out on a book or your favorite cover. And if you're overseas, check out comicsbugle.com. They have free shipping, no taxes or import fees if you're within the EU. You can also save $5 off of your first order by using the code GemMint at checkout, and you can continue to build up rewards points afterwards. Here's a look at the inside of the dust jacket. Here's basically a synopsis, kind of going over the stuff that I just said. And the creative team, you have Christopher Cantwell, Jerry Dugan, Al Ewing, Jed McKay, Erica Schultz, Zeb Wells, and more. And here's the image on the hardcover, The Amazing Spider-Man vs. Chasm, Peter Parker vs. Ben Reilly. Open up to some purple cover pages. Here's the whole squad here. Spider-Man, Chasm, and the Goblin Queen. I like this kind of cinematic credits page, the big dark web logo. So here's the Free Comic Book Day stuff, setting up this whole event. It's basically like Inferno comes back from the X-Men Inferno thing with Madeline Pryor. Here's where they meet. Cool to see such recent material get reprinted. I remember vividly with that Hallows Eve coming out. I was reading a lot of this stuff in singles, the Venom run I was reading. This was post King in Black, where Venom has gone cosmic. And here's the twisted minds of Ben Reilly and Madeline Pryor. Their motives are pretty clear, just being clones and not having their own memories. I haven't read all the material yet, just some of it as it was coming out. I'm a big Ben Reilly guy, but more of the 90s stuff, more of the Clone Saga era. All right, so we got some variant covers in the back. John Boy Myers, Alex Maleev, some connecting covers, some homages. I love the OG Mark Bagley. So pretty cool to have all these in these modern Omnis, all the different variants, the Alex Ross Timeless variants, Gold Goblin homage, Alex Ross Green Goblin. Here's the Hallow Eve 1 covers. I remember the variants coming out for these. The Scotty Young stuff. All right, next up, we have an early look at the Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 6. This is what it's all about for me. Trying to get Amazing Spider-Man collected from 1 through 700, getting us one step closer, but still a long way to go. Let's check it out. This one's due out on February 11th. This is the direct market variant. The standard cover, I don't remember what issue it's from, but it's where Spider-Man's bouncing all around. I love when they used to do that back in the day during those years. But yeah, Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6. Spider-Man's my favorite character. It was my favorite comic to read and collect, so I just love seeing them reprinted in Omnibus. I wonder how long they're going to continue going. I mean, it's eventually going to bump into the Roger Stern Omnibus, so maybe they'll bridge the gaps. With a $100 cover price, it collects Amazing Spider-Man 181 through 205, Annuals 12 and 13, the Spectacular Spider-Man Annual 1, What If 1, 7 through 8, and 19. So probably some double dipping, I would imagine, with the Spectacular Spider-Man Omnibus and those What If Omnis. But you get all the covers on the back. Here's issue 200. Here's the annual, which is this dust jacket. Issue 186 is the standard cover. The inside of the dust jacket, a biography on a young Marv Wolfman, Ross Andru, and Keith Pollard, who did the direct market variant cover. A look at where we're at with Spider-Man during this time. No fancy graphics on the old school material, just the Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus with the same spine. Old school Spidey logo on the back. So I was flipping through this one, reading the forwards and such, and it always gives you such great perspective of the time here. This is the cover for issue 200, which I gotta say, underwhelming cover. It looks better when they made the white negative in the back, but it's art by John Romita. We have all the credits and the table of contents. I was just reading up on Ross Andru when I was reading the Marvel vs. DC Omnibus. He's the one that did the Spider-Man vs. Superman stuff. So this was a great read, talking about going from a fan to a writer. Because, yeah, I mean, you're coming into issue 200s now. Spider-Man is already a household name. So it starts... This first issue wasn't by Mark, but it starts with a retelling of the origin. It's kind of like a jumping on point here. Yeah, I guess I did read a few of these issues while I was flipping through it. Going through the Rogues Gallery. But I do love this era of art, man. I used to have fat heads all in my man cave from this era. Bronze Age stuff. So you get the letters pages in these older issues. Then we jump into the annual, Spidey vs. the Hulk. I'm thinking about starting an Amazing Spider-Man read-through. Reading my favorite characters and favorite runs like on a read-through. So I'm doing TMNT, Spawn. I'm thinking it's logical for me to add either Amazing Spider-Man or actually Wolverine. I would love to do a Wolverine read-through starting from the first Omnibus. All right, but you get the idea. Spider-Man vs. Doc Ock. It also has issue 194, which is the first appearance of Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat. Then we can go to issue 200, that milestone issue. This was the annual, I believe, and it had pinups. It reminded me of Amazing Spider-Man 1 annual, where it ended with all the pinups, which ended up being the Sinister Six. That's when they all team up, but it's kind of cool to see this era's run of villains. Prowler, Kingpin. Can't forget the Kangaroo. Here's 200. So the big milestone issue. They have an entire Marvel Comics calendar from 1978 in the back with the original art there. That's dope, man. And then you could even find old calendars. Calendars match up after X amount of years. I don't know the math on that. You know what I'm talking about. From 1978. J. Jonah Jameson. Here we go. January with the Amazing Fantasy stuff. Amazing Spider-Man 1. Then you have getting his villains together. Supporting cast. Spider-Man No More. Doc Ock and Spidey. Tackling social issues. Six-Armed Spidey. Death of Gwen Stacy. All these new villains. Aunt May marrying Doc Ock. Great bonuses in this, man. Original art, including unused covers for ASM 194. Some house ads. Marvel Tales covers, including some Todd McFarlane stuff with Dazzler. Spider-Man and Dazzler. This video is brought to you by Paraz Entertainment. MegaCon is right around the corner, February 6th, and we have a Dream Killers 1 drop featuring an absolute Batman 1 homage. There's 5 different trims on this. They're going to be dropped live on Whatnot during the convention. Make sure to follow that Spider-Man booth on Whatnot and bookmark their upcoming shows. All right, on to some DC stuff. We've got the Swamp Thing Omnibus. This one's by Mark Millar and Phil Hester, and I've loved everything Swamp Thing that I've read so far. Let's take a look at it. All right, this is the only one I'm not sure about. I don't know if I read this material or not, but it's Swamp Thing by Mark Millar and Phil Hester. We're going to take a look at it together for the first time. Here's the spine. I'm a big fan of Mark Millar, and I know I've seen these covers before. I'm wondering if I did read it. This was from Swamp Thing, Volume 2, 140 through 171. $100 cover price, brand new introduction by Hester, and brand new afterword by Millar. But I do remember seeing this cover and this artwork. Maybe it's just because that's a classic Swamp Thing cover at this point. But we get a biography on the creative team here. But let's take a look at it. Swamp Thing opens up to some swampy cover pages. Oh, it looks like we get some Grant Morrison stuff, Phil Jimenez. So here's the table of contents. The forward that we mentioned. I have not read this. So this is from 1995. Oh yeah, so this is old DC Vertigo stuff. So here's the Grant Morrison story. Yeah, see, this looks and feels just like the Alan Moore Swamp Thing stuff. Every time I've read something Swamp Thing, whether it's Alan Moore or Scott Snyder or the Brightest Day Omnibus, I always dig the Swamp Thing stuff because you can go so deep with it. But yeah, this one I have not read at all. I can't really give you much on it. I love this era of comic books. DC Vertigo, I mean, you have mature 90s stuff. The art is great. It's before like the digitalized coloring. And then the stories are usually psychedelic, mind-blowing. Look, it's the 90s, so you know you're getting horizontal double-page spreads. Let's see if they have any bonuses on the back of this one. I got to read this one. Yeah, the covers are great, though. See, you can go trippy with Swamp Thing. All right, this looks like the last issue of this Omni. Here's the afterword by Mark Millar. Oh, they got that one recently. So the making of, some concepts and sketches. Oh, these were those long trading cards. Man, I always liked trading cards. I hated the long ones, man. Spawn had them too, and I think there was a DC set that had them. All right, cool, man. Looking forward to reading this. All right, guys, next up we have a Ghost Machine Deluxe Edition. This is Junkyard Joe. It collects the 6-issue series, Jeff Johns, Gary Frank. Let's check it out. So they went with the oversized, larger than an omnibus trim on the Junkyard Joe Deluxe Edition. Brad Anderson and Rob Lee on here as well. Just 6 issues. I remember reading the Ghost Machine stuff when it was coming out on DC Black Label. I read Junkyard Joe and Geiger, and I always liked them. They were always highlights of my week. $35 cover price for this oversized hardcover. Nice interior cover pages, the top secret file. So Junkyard Joe is, if you've seen Creature Commandos with Robot, it's kind of like a parody of that in a sense. But you have Junkyard Joe that was in the military. Look at this, back in 1972. It was like the first ever robot AI. It only had one goal, which was to kill Nazis. Hold on, I don't remember. Is that Creature Commando or is that Junkyard Joe? It's basically the same thing. But the comics are gritty, well written by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, and like you saw with Brad Anderson. Here goes Junkyard Joe. But I remember them just being pulling at your emotions types of issues, which is funny because you're dealing with a robot. You see his soulless eyes as he's in the battlefield here, visiting the soldiers as they've grown much older. Yes, he's talking about pulling at your heartstrings. Definitely worth the read, however you can read it, whether you go with a deluxe edition or single issues. Let's see what they have in the back here of Junkyard Joe. Old comic strips that had Junkyard Joe. Yeah, so what was that? The old veteran was writing comic strips of Junkyard Joe that he was with him in the war, but then I think it was like his last day or something. Oh, this was the Spawn variant from that time. So cool, you have variant covers in the back, veterans dedications in the back, very cool. From Ghost Machine, from Jeff Johns and them. Ghost Machine stuff is great. I haven't been keeping up with it. I read all the launch titles for Ghost Machine. I liked them all, but I haven't been keeping up with the singles. All right, and lastly, I just got done reading this for the first time. It's The Absolute Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Gerards. And shout out to DC for going for the die-cut slipcase, Mr. Miracle, trapped behind bars, but the thing about him is that he always escapes. So here is the spine of the slipcase. You can see again the die cut with those laser bars. Love the design. The Absolutes are the best, man. Absolutes are dope. This one retails $125. They are expensive though. So here's the Mitch Gerard's art. You have Mr. Miracle, and it really helps. So I just read this for my first time. It really helped that I recently I was reading the Fourth World Omnibus, the Jack Kirby stuff, and I didn't read the whole thing, but I think I read all the Mr. Miracle stuff because that run, if I'm remembering, was the first one to end. Tom King, he doesn't really do superhero comics. They're really like comic books for adults, and they're very relationship themed. So Mr. Miracle, it opens up, each of these issues open up, and you're getting like narration from like an old timely television show, because Mr. Miracle is a escaped artist, kind of like a Harry Houdini, but scot-free, his origin is much different. So he was born to the Highfather in New Genesis. Darkseid had a child born of Apocalypse, and they've been waging war for eons. They make an agreement to stop war if they swap children. So this way one would never attack the other. So the Highfather's child ends up being raised by Granny Goodness in Apocalypse, basically living in a torture-like environment. He ends up meeting Big Barda there. They grow up together. And then when Scott-Free, who gets his name from always escaping, he escapes and goes to Earth, he meets this performance actor, Mr. Miracle. He ends up dying. He ends up taking his spot. But where we're at here, and again, it's like comic books for adults. You have Scott-Free try to unalive himself in his own bathroom. It's a roller coaster of emotions, man. It feels very adult. If you're married, like I've been married coming up on 17 years now, I understood a lot of the relationship dynamic between Scott-Free and Big Barda. You get a lot of these 9-panel grids throughout this story as well. It's kind of funny, like it's a casual feeling, down-to-earth relationship, but they're also pretty much gods, and they travel across the universe in boom tubes, and they have all this trauma from growing up raised by Granny Goodness. So the whole big theme with this run was Darkseid is. You would always see that quote everywhere, and haven't read this, I always felt like, what is it? I'm too old now to ask. I'm too afraid to ask. But Darkseid is the theme, and it's kind of like saying Darkseid exists. Like no matter what's going on, Darkseid is. Like something goes bad, Darkseid is. Good thing we're still alive, Darkseid is. Like he's alive as well. He's always there. So we end up having a war between New Genesis and Apocalypse kick off again. Orion, who is Darkseid's son that grew up in New Genesis, ends up going to war very casually with his brother. And I guess I don't want to give away the whole story, but Mr. Miracle and Big Barda have a child, and then Darkseid agrees to end all war if they'll let their child be raised there in New Apocalypse. So it's crazy, man. It deals with parenthood. It deals with relationship stuff. And then you do have some superhero stuff where you have Mr. Miracle and Barda go toe-to-toe with Darkseid, which is pretty dope, and I'll keep that by myself. Now, what I thought was cool, too, as far as the art, every issue, Scott-Free is wearing a different DC Comics t-shirt. You'll see him in a Batman shirt. His kid has a Batman toy as part of the story. Or you'll see him in a Flash shirt or a Wonder Woman shirt or whatever. I did enjoy this story. It was a quick read going through the 12 issues. I could see why people like it. I don't think that it would be for everybody. Again, it's not your typical superhero beat 'em up, but look, you do get some of that. But I did dig it, man. And the Absolute Edition comes with a bunch of bonuses as well, so you get all of the different variant covers, second printing covers. Yeah, so here's Big Barda with Mr. Miracle. She's like an Amazon, pretty much. The humor is good there. That's their child, Jacob, I want to say. So you deal with fatherhood stuff. Oh, and this is great. So first of all, yeah, here's Darkseid is. So Mitch Gerard, he uses a lot of real life photos to draw. So he uses his own family, like his wife and his baby. Yeah, here we go. So for him as a Darkseid holding the baby, his baby on the floor, Darkseid eating from the vegetable tray, the baby up at the glass. So the inspiration, I forget what they call it, the models. He uses his family as models for the art. And this was cool to see as well. All of these people here that were hidden as Easter eggs in one of these issues. And then here's the original Mr. Miracle stuff. So again, it felt good having read that. And I know the Mr. Miracle story. I know the whole Darkseid and Highfather trading off the kids stuff, and a lot more of him actually performing as Mr. Miracle, because it's really only highlighted in the first and last page of each issue in the Tom King run. But you get some of that. Oh, so you'll get some of those references here. I didn't even look at that. I had just known that from recently reading it. Some more variant covers and such. Oh yeah, and it also comes with a poster of Mr. Miracle as him as the performer, signed by Scott-Free. All right, everybody, thanks for checking out the haul. Let me know which ones you're picking up in the comments down below, and thanks for watching. Stay minty fresh. Peace.